welcome to my video about oil catch cans, and in particular the HPD or high performance diesel catch can, which I'm going to be fitting to my 2017 Ford Ranger. It's got the 3.2 engine, but I think these would also work with the 2.2 variant of it. So in the box you get the actual catch can itself, some fitting instructions, the pipes, bracket, and then all of the mounting kit. So I like the look of the HPD one, which is obviously one of the reasons why I purchased it. It's machined out of billet aluminium. It looks like it's really well made. I did look into some other variants where they have internal filters, whereas this one this one doesn't actually have that. But I felt that this was sort of a better alternative to ones with filters. One, because obviously then you don't have to continually change a filter. Two, I really liked on the HPD one that you have this oil dipstick, so you can easily check to see what the level of oil is that's gets captured inside, to know when you need to empty it. And although there's some Gauss filters on both sides of the inlet and outlet, they can be easily removed and cleaned, so there should be no requirement for replacement parts with it, which is sort of one of the key things that I liked. So why fit a catch can in the first place? So here I've got the inlet manifold and throttle body housing from the vehicle. So I actually changed the glow plugs in mine probably about 18 months ago, and when I had this all off at that point, I gave it all a really good clean, and I've probably done a good sort of 15,000 miles since, and you can see hopefully you can see in here that there's already quite a significant build-up of oil and soot sort of debris. So shortly after I did the glow plugs on there, and I did clean all this out actually at the time, I then decided to have the EGR valve mapped permanently closed, and I put a blanking plate in there. So there's advantages of doing that, because the Ford Rangers are prone to the EGR coolers failing, and then you risk getting water into the cylinders via the air intakes, and you can hydrolock the engine, and it causes other sort of problems as well. So a bit of a preventative thing, I did that, but also what that has hopefully sort of helped with, and like I say, I've done about 15,000 miles I think since I've done that, and although there is still a bit of build up of dirt in here, it's it's not hugely bad, and I'd hope to think that the soot and oil debris that's built up there would have been a result of the time between doing the glow plugs and this is all being cleaned up and actually having the EGR valve map closed. So in theory, with that map closed now, there shouldn't be any exhaust gases or soot coming through into the intake. But obviously what is still happening is you still then get from the crankcase breather oil vapor coming in via the inlet. So the way that when this is bolted onto the car, your EGR connects onto this side, hence why that side looks quite sooty. This side has the throttle body attached to it, and it's still relatively sort of clean. So although there is oil residue that can be seen in there. So the reason really for the catch can now is to try and help reduce the amount of oil vapor that then gets fed back into the inlet. So what I did a recent service, and I actually managed to get a relatively new inlet manifold and throttle body housing that was way cleaner than what this one was originally. And one of the things I found actually quite awkward with this when cleaning it previously is obviously trying to get actually deep inside some of these areas can be quite awkward, and it is a really messy job. You can't underestimate the amount of crap that comes out of this. Yeah, if you've not got a really good way of disposing of you know, the waste that comes out of this, if you are cleaning it, then you know, I'd say it's almost easier to try and see if you can purchase either a new manifold and just do a straight swap of it, because like I say, it's a really messy job, and it's no fun really to do it. So like I say, so the main reason with this now is, so I've got a relatively sort of new and a nice clean manifold that's now on the vehicle. The EGR valve is closed, you know, is permanently closed. So the oil catch can is now to try and help reduce a bit further the amount of oil vapor that will come in via the air intake. I may look to replace the intercooler at some point, because I'm guessing that, you know, some of this oil vapor, whilst it's, you know, if it's in the you know, inlet there within the throttle body, there's going to be sort of oil residue, you know, within the intercooler as well. So I'm sure that's going to be, you know, restricting a bit of the airflow through it, and it's not, you know, I'm sure it's not being as efficient as it was when it was brand new. So I may look to change that at some later date in the future. Okay, so I'm going to start assembling this and getting it onto the vehicle. I don't intend to do really sort of an installation as part of this, you know, sort of an instruction to say how it's installed as part of that. But one of the kind of key things that I want to try and show with this video is obviously the reasons why I'm installing it, but then more so to after I've done 1,000 miles, I will have a look, see what you know, what oil or what vapor is being captured in here. I also want to sort of monitor the oil seals to the crankcase. So one of the key things you'll read or, you know, watch on other sort of YouTube videos about this is, you know, the risk of putting in catch cans and then there's the chance that you know, you start blowing crankcase seals. And the reason for that is because you've got you know, the way that the current breather is, it's literally just a breather into the air intake, so there's no sort of real restriction to it there, so there's no reason for any additional pressure or back pressure into the crankcase as a result. When you put you know, a catch can or some kind of oil separator in there, you know, especially if this gets clogged up and, you know, you're not regularly cleaning it or emptying it, then, you know, you're blocking that breather pipe or that breather mechanism. That's going to increase then your crankcase pressure, and then there's the risk that you start blowing crankcase seals and things like that. So I want to monitor really how this works over a period of time, you know, how much oil it actually kind of captures, whether there's any signs of oil leaks from the crankcase or any other sort of problems. And I'll sort of add to the idea is to sort of add to the video over time, you know, to sort of be able to show how it's doing. But so on the crankcase pressure point, so one of the key things that I liked about this, and like I say, where there isn't any specific filter as such that captures the you know, the oil vapor and side of things on there, you know, it just allows the oil vapor to come in and then gravity really to work, and the oil droplets will drop to the bottom of the catch can, and then on the, you know, the outlet from here, the idea being that, you know, you get cleaner air coming back out. I'm sure it's not going to capture all of the vapor, it's not going to be 100% efficient, but hopefully it will help reduce the amount of oil vapor that's then going back in through the inlet. So yeah, but with this as it stands at the moment, I think providing you keep this you know, regularly kind of cleaned and maintained, which should be easy, and you can see you can easily take those Gauss filters out. You know, this should be relatively kind of free flowing from an air perspective, therefore, you know, I don't think this should really create a huge amount of back pressure. But, you know, I may be proved wrong on that, and obviously that's, you know, one of the purposes of this video is to try and then sort of see, do I get any signs of oil leaks later on from the crankcase or any other kind of issues. So obviously we've got the sump here and gearbox, And this is where really I'm going to be sort of looking to see if the crankcase seals do start to leak. I would expect to see, you know, something kind of leaking out around here, if there were any problems. So I've given it a little bit of a wipe clean over. There was no significant sort of oil residue on here previously, so I'm comfortable there's no pre-existing leaks or any issues there. So like I say, I'll sort of monitor this over the time, and if there's any sort of signs of leaks, you know, oil leaks after putting the catch can on, then you know, that does pose obviously a bit of a problem, but hopefully it won't. So installation wise, I'm pretty happy with it. It's easy enough to fit. The only criticisms I do have is the actual catch can itself sits at a slight angle. It's probably difficult to see on the video, but it would have been nice if, because this part of the bodywork sort of slopes down, it means this then sits at a wee angle. If they had put a slight tweak in the bracket there, that would have allowed it to then sort of sit upright, which would have been slightly better, but it's not the end of the world. It just means any oil that does get caught in there catches to sort of one side a little bit more than sort of, you know, filling up levelly. But the dipstick's on the right side of it there, so you know, it's going to be on that side where it kind of pulls up more, so at least you're still going to be able to use the dipstick, and that will be effective. But I guess the main criticism really about it is to actually be able to sort of check that it's quite tight, to get your hand in down there, to then be able to get enough sort of leverage onto the actual bowl part to turn it, you know, to twist it to come off. But the other thing is, even if you can manage that, there's not enough room then to be able to wiggle that out, to be able to sort of empty it, clean it, put it back in. So ends up being the easiest thing is just to unbolt, take the two hoses off, take it out, and then use that way to check it, which is a little bit of a faff, but it's not, you know, it's not the end of the world. So, but that would be my only sort of real criticism with it. Okay, and final check then is just to check to make sure there's no leaks at all at the back of the crankcase. I did give this a little bit of a clean when I installed it, but I can't see any additional signs of any sort of new oil coming out or anything like that. So certainly for the moment there's no signs of any you know, sort of creating any extra pressure and then starting to blow oil out of the rear crank seals on there, which is good. But I'll continue to keep an eye on that, as I will with the rest of it. So I'll continue to do some periodic checks over the next few thousand miles, and look to update this video to let you guys know how it's going. Thanks very much. So first inspection, I've done 1,500 miles since I first installed it, about 1,000 of which has been towing, so under load, and there's a tiny amount that it's caught actually in there. I had expected it to have caught a bit more, and you can see on where the inlet is, there's a little bit more residue on where it comes in rather than on the outward on there. So it does seem to be working, but like I say, it doesn't carry a huge amount or caught a huge amount in there, which is, I would have expected more. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.